This week's Grandmaster is a new one, with Liminality entering the Grandmaster Nightfall rotation for the very first time. And if you guys remember the final shape teaser from a few months ago, the Bungie team claimed that this would be one of the hardest Grandmasters of all time. So today, we'll be putting that to the test and breaking down the best team comp, loadouts, and positioning strategies to help make this GM a breeze. I'm Above, and if you enjoyed today's video, a like and subscription would be greatly appreciated. Now, let's get into it. Starting with my recommended team comp, we tried all sorts of team compositions from Golden Gun to Song of Flame, Prismatic Consecration Titan, and even Double Orpheus Rig Tether, and most of them performed pretty well, but they all fell short at one point in the GM or another. Song of Flame is great for nuking waves of adds, but didn't really do much for our team in the boss fight. So even though it isn't what it used to be, we actually opted for Well of Radiance with the Cenotaph Mask to help soak up damage in this GM's toughest choke points, give you a nice damage buff, and generate heavy ammo for our ad clear weapons. We paired this with two Void Hunters rocking Celestial Nighthawk, which may sound odd at first, but actually fulfills multiple roles for our fire team. The first is obviously ad control, as this is an extremely ad-dense Grandmasters where enemies can easily overwhelm you. Tether helps control this chaos while simultaneously generating a ridiculous number of orbs, which allows you to continuously chain supers. So as long as you're communicating with your team and space out your supers appropriately, Orpheus rigs aren't really needed here. Instead, we went with Celestial Nighthawk because even though it was nerfed today, Still Hunt remains as the best boss killing weapon in the entire game right now. And the toughest part of this Grandmaster just so happens to be killing the final boss, which is why we opted for this loadout. As for our weapons, we went with two Still Hunts for boss damage and anti-barrier capabilities, Divinity to give our hunters an easy way to build Cade's retribution stacks while simultaneously marking targets with Cenotaph. We also went with 3 machine guns for ad clear, which are extremely powerful this week thanks to the weekly overcharge, and 3 unstoppable scout rifles to avoid using double special, as Still Hunt and Divinity will always take priority here. Diving right into the Nightfall, the opening of this GM is relatively straightforward. Make your way through the opening caves, clear a few basic enemies, and break down the Hive Corruption to arrive at the first room. And this part's pretty easy because we can simply clear the shielded adds from where we enter, stun the unstop, and use Divinity to not only mark the champ, but give your hunters an easy target to begin building their Cade's retribution stacks. And once clear, you're free to move forward and clear the next set of Hive Corruption, which will open up to a room with 2 paths, of which we prefer the right-hand side. The left path exposes you to both barrier champions, while the right path allows you to take out the barriers one at a time, with the left never even aggroing you. There are 2 Shriekers in this area, which is why I recommend taking out the first barrier from a distance, then pushing up slowly and taking out the 2 Shriekers before ever engaging the second barrier. And with those tips, you should be through this part no problem. The next room has yet another barrier champion, but it's actually great for restocking on ammo. And once dead, you'll make your way through the next set of caves and arrive at what I consider to be the second hardest encounter of this Nightfall. Our goal here is to take out 3 Glyph Keepers that will break the seal on a Hive barrier and allow us to leave. But to do that, you'll need to clear adds like crazy and cycle your supers efficiently to keep adds under control. I personally like to set up on the right-hand side and use this sloped ramp for cover. This spot keeps most of the ad spawns in front of you, with the only exception being 3 Cursed Thrall that occasionally spawn a ways behind you near where we entered the room. I like to throw down a well and trade off tethers to continuously keep ads under control. Each Glyph Keeper will spawn with a barrier champion alongside them, accompanied by a significant mob of ads, so you'll want to have your head on a swivel. Start by clearing the trash mobs first, then focus on the priority targets. And when both of them die, the next wave of enemies will spawn in. You'll repeat this process until the second wave has been cleared as well, at which point the third and final wave will spawn in. This time, however, the Glyph Keeper and Barrier Champion will be joined by a Hive Guardian to make this last wave even more difficult. But keep in mind that you can suppress the Hive Guardian out of its super with Tether, while Div and Still Hunt make light work of him. Make sure to finish the Ghost, clear the remaining adds, then take out the Glyph Keeper and final Barrier Champion, and just like that, we're moving on. Next, you'll make your way through some platforming sections and arrive in a dark room with a single unstop. Take him out, and the door will open to a room where we must quickly traverse through geometry to activate Ahamkara skulls with taken energy. You'll want to do this quickly because the longer you stay in this room, the more tanky the enemies become that the boss will spawn in, which can make this encounter pretty difficult. So when you enter, make sure to beeline it for the portal on either side. The left portal is all about speed, while the right portal is slightly more forgiving in terms of time, but requires you to shoot 9 taken blights to dispel a taken barrier that will ultimately set you free. My advice for the left side is to always stick to low ground when possible, allowing you to slide through gaps and keep as much distance between you and the lava above you. Jumping over objects is just asking for trouble, so avoid doing this as much as possible. And once both sides have been cleansed, the boss will despawn and a path forward will open. Push forward through the cavern where we'll kill 3 more unstops scattered throughout this area. They're all relatively easy to deal with as long as you take your time and are a great way to restock on ammo. Once all 3 have been killed, we'll arrive at a darkness node that must be activated to unlock a room that contains a veiled statue. And in this encounter there is just one goal, and that is to survive. When the door opens, you'll want to beeline it for the far right-hand side of the arena and have invis ready for you and your teammates when the enemies begin to spawn. We tried a bunch of different locations to clear ads from, and this area is by far the most consistent. The lava shifts between rounds and can easily catch you off guard if you're not paying attention, while this top right-hand side remains consistent across all 3 rounds of ads. The only real threat here are the taken hobgoblins that spawn in front of and across from you, but that's where Well of Radiance comes in. Instead of using Song of Flame, we use Well to tank some of the sniper shots and give us consistent healing, which allows us to cycle our tethers and clear the rest of the ads from this high ground. And what's nice about this strategy is the fact that you can take your time clearing the last few ads to wait for your supers and keep them alive until you have all 3 of them ready to go. This way you're completely safe each round and eliminate a ton of the randomness that will undoubtedly cause teams problems this week. And once clear, the lava will dissipate and we're moving on. And as we drop down, the boss fight begins. Start by tethering the boss in the middle of the arena and have your 2 hunters spam still hunt on the boss's shoulders until you reach the first health gate. We tried this fight with several different weapons, including Outbreak, rockets, and machine guns, and nothing even came close to how easy still hunt makes this fight. The only thing to note is that you do not want to div the boss during the first 2 phases, as the crit spots are not broken yet and divinity will actually reduce your damage. So while this is happening, your warlock can throw down a well and focus on ad clear with their machine gun while your hunters take care of the boss. When you reach the first health gate, a massive wave of enemies will spawn on both sides of the arena, which is why I recommend tethering these pillars to repeatedly trap the ad spawns. You can take your time killing enemies here, just be aware that lava will line the outer edges of the arena while the boss is teleported away and can easily catch you off guard, so be sure to keep an eye out for that. Once clear, you'll need to traverse geometry again just like we did earlier in the strike, and once both skulls have been activated, the boss will spawn back in and the lava will dissipate. Throw down a well behind the rock near where we entered and get ready to instantly bake the boss's second phase of health. It's at this point that you'll want to rotate to the far side of the arena, as the ad spawns will now shift to where we've been dealing damage during the first 2 phases. Once again, Tether, Divinity, and Still Hunt go absolutely crazy here and make the Hive Wizard extremely easy to deal with. Once dead, a Subjugator will spawn in front of the boss, so we'll want to rotate back to our original position and kill it from here. It is at this point that the Tormentor will spawn in one last time and will be fully enraged now that the shoulders are broken. This is where you want to div the boss, as the crit spawn on his chest is extremely hard to hit when he's running around the arena. Deal damage when you can, rotate to safety when needed, and nuke the boss with Still Hunt to make the Liminality Grandmaster Nightfall a GG. If you found this guide useful, a like and subscription would be greatly appreciated, and you can catch me live doing helps all week long over at twitch.tv/above. Anyways, that's it from me. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll catch you next time.